Your car is totaled. The driver survived, but he was drunk. That was the first sentence Emily heard when she picked up the phone at 2:47 a.m. Her hands trembled as the officer explained what had happened. Her silver Audi, the car she had worked 3 long years to afford, was wrapped around a utility pole like a crumpled soda can. The driver was her younger brother, Ryan. For a moment, Emily couldn't breathe. She pictured her Audi, still new, still carrying that faint leather smell, the floor mat still covered in plastic because she had babied it like her firstborn. And now, shattered, destroyed, gone. The officer's voice was calm but heavy. Your brother is stable, but alcohol was a factor. We'll need you to come to the scene. Emily's chest tightened. Alcohol. That word rang in her ears like a hammer. She had trusted Ryan with her car for a simple dinner. Instead, he had turned it into a weapon. When she arrived on Riverside Drive, the sight hit her like a punch. Glass glittered across the asphalt. Twisted metal groaned under the streetlights. And her Audi, the dream she had sweated, sacrificed, and saved for, was now a mangled shell. The officer glanced at her, his expression grim. Ma'am, I'm surprised he survived. Based on skid marks, we estimate 65 miles per hour in a 35 zone. Her stomach dropped, twice the speed limit, drunk, behind her wheel. Emily stood frozen, rage and grief colliding inside her. She thought of the overtime hours, the promotions she'd clawed for, the birthdays and vacations she had skipped just to save for that car. And now, in one selfish night, Ryan had erased it all. But what Emily didn't know yet was that losing the car was only the beginning. The true crash was still coming, and it wouldn't be metal against a pole. It would be family against truth. Before we dive into this gripping story of betrayal, denial, and ultimate justice, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What would you do if your own family destroyed something you worked years to build? The fluorescent lights of Memorial Hospital buzzed faintly above Emily I.'s head as she sat in the emergency ward. Her fingers clenched so tight around the styrofoam cup of coffee that it buckled in her hand, warm liquid dripping onto her jeans. She didn't even notice. Her thoughts were trapped in a loop. The car, the crash, the image of her Audi folded like scrap metal. Finally, a nurse guided her into Ryan's room. He lay there with a cast on his arm, bruises spreading across his face like dark stains, but alive. Alive when he shouldn't have been. Alive when someone else could have died because of him. Emily, Ryan croaked, his eyes glassy. Thank God you're here. This is such a nightmare. I don't even remember what happened after dinner. Emily's jaw clenched. You were drunk. You crashed my car. He shook his head quickly, wincing at the pain. No, I wasn't drunk. I had maybe 2 beers with dinner, that's it. The police test must be wrong. They always mess those things up. Emily stared at him, her heart pounding in disbelief. Your blood alcohol level was 0.14, Ryan, nearly twice the legal limit. That's impossible, he snapped, his voice hoarse but defensive. It was just an accident. A freak accident. I'm the one in the hospital bed here. Isn't that enough proof I've suffered already? The words stung like acid. He wasn't sorry. Not for her, not for the car, not for the risk he had posed to every stranger on Riverside Drive. He was sorry only for himself. Emily's throat tightened, but her voice came out cold and sharp. My car is totaled. My savings, my years of sacrifice, gone. And you sit here pretending it wasn't your fault? Ryan looked away, muttering, Insurance will cover it. You'll be fine. Fine. The word echoed in her chest, hollow and cruel. Nothing was fine. Her dream car was gone. Her trust was shattered. And worst of all, her brother, her own flesh and blood, was refusing to take responsibility. As Emily turned and walked out of the hospital room, her steps echoed down the sterile hallway. Her pulse thundered in her ears. This wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about respect, about truth, about accountability. And she was about to learn that Ryan wasn't the only one ready to excuse the inexcusable. Because the next day, when Emily's parents showed up at her door, she expected support. Instead, they brought excuses, and a demand that would ignite the real war inside the family. The knock on Emily's door came late Sunday afternoon. She half expected it to be an insurance adjuster or maybe Officer Martinez following up about the wreck. But when she opened the door, it was her parents. Faces tight, lips pressed thin, eyes carrying the weight of something rehearsed. "Sweetheart, we need to talk," her mother said, brushing past her without waiting for an invitation. Her father followed, his tone already heavy with authority. "This situation with Ryan, it's gone too far." Emily folded her arms. "You mean the situation where he drove drunk in my car, totaled it, and could have killed someone?" Her dad's expression hardened. "Don't twist this. You gave him permission to use your car." "I gave him permission to drive to dinner," Emily snapped. "Not to go bar hopping, not to speed through neighborhoods at 65 miles an hour, and definitely not to drive drunk." Her mother sank into the couch like she owned the place, sighing as if Emily were the child here. Ryan made a mistake, a serious mistake, but he's family, and family forgives family. Emily's heart thudded against her ribs, her breath sharp. He could have killed someone. And you're calling that just a mistake? "He didn't kill anyone," her father countered. "He's alive. No one else was hurt. Insurance will replace your car. Everything worked out." The words sliced through her like knives. Worked out? Her car, the car she had saved 3 years for, was gone. The loan still hung around her neck like a chain. And now she was supposed to smile because Ryan happened to walk away alive? "Everything didn't work out," Emily said, her voice trembling with fury. "I'm the one who lost $45,000. I'm the one stuck with debt. But I guess that doesn't matter, does it? Because Ryan is the one you need to protect." Her mom reached across the table, patting her hand with that same condescending touch Emily had hated since childhood. "You'll bounce back. You're young, you're smart, you'll save again. Ryan's the one who could go to jail." Emily pulled her hand back like it was burned. Maybe he should. The room fell into stunned silence. Her parents looked at her as if she'd just cursed the family name. Her father's jaw tightened. Her mother's eyes narrowed. That was when Emily realized the truth. This wasn't about fairness. It was about protection. They would bend reality itself to shield Ryan from consequences, even if it meant sacrificing her. And in that moment, a spark ignited inside her. They wanted to protect Ryan at all costs? Then she would make sure the costs were undeniable. Because Emily had a choice. Let her brother slip away again, or take action that would force the truth into the open, even if it meant turning her whole family against her. The apartment felt suffocating after her parents left. Their words replayed in Emily's mind like poison. "It worked out. You'll bounce back. Ryan's the one who could go to jail." Her pulse pounded in her temples as she stared at the stack of insurance forms spread across her kitchen table. Numbers swam before her eyes. Even with the payout, she'd be thousands short. The debt would linger for years, all because her brother treated her car like a toy. And what had he offered her in return? Denial, excuses, a shrug that it was just an accident. Emily's hands shook, but not from fear anymore, from clarity. For years, she had watched her parents coddle Ryan. Every slip-up was brushed aside, every failure softened with excuses, every crime disguised as a mistake. And now? Now they wanted her to carry the weight of his recklessness too. She stood, fists clenching so hard her nails dug into her palms. "No," she whispered to herself. "Not this time." Her phone sat on the counter, the screen reflecting her own determined eyes. She picked it up and scrolled to her recent calls. Officer Martinez. She pressed dial. When his steady voice answered, she didn't hesitate. "I need to file a report. Unauthorized use of a vehicle. My brother took my car under false pretenses, drove it drunk, and destroyed it. I want the facts on record." There was a pause on the other end. "Ms. Johnson, are you sure? This could make his legal situation much worse." Emily's jaw tightened. "His choices made his legal situation worse. I'm just making sure the truth is recorded." When she hung up, she felt a strange calm settle over her. Not joy, not revenge, something sharper, justice. She imagined her parents' faces when they found out. The horror. the betrayal they would accuse her of. But she pushed it aside. For once, this wasn't about their approval. It wasn't about keeping the peace. It was about holding Ryan accountable, for once in his life. The clock ticked on, the silence heavy, but Emily felt lighter than she had in days. For the first time since the midnight call, her heartbeat slowed. She had drawn the line, and when her parents found out, the war would begin. Because the next time she saw her parents, they weren't alone. They had gathered the whole family for an intervention. But Emily was the one ready to confront them all with the truth. The following Sunday, Emily drove her old Honda Civic toward her parents' house. She had been invited for dinner, but the tone in her mother A.'s voice made it clear. This was a casual family meal. It was a setup. When she stepped inside, her suspicion was confirmed. Not just her parents and Ryan were there, but her Aunt Susan, Uncle Bob, and even her grandparents. Faces arranged around the dining table like a tribunal. The air was thick, tense, heavy with judgment. "Emily," her mom said warmly, too warmly, "we're all here because we love you. We want to heal this family." Her father gestured toward Ryan, who sat with his arm in a cast, looking pitiful. "Your brother has something to say." Ryan lifted his eyes with what he must have thought was sincerity. "I'm really sorry about your car, Em. I know how much it meant to you. Once my legal stuff is cleared and I'm back at work, I'll help with whatever the insurance doesn't cover." Several family members nodded approvingly, as if this half-apology was salvation itself. Emily tilted her head. "How much do you think that will be?" Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know, a couple thousand?" "Try 10, Emily said sharply. "Maybe more." His face fell. "Well, it might take me a while, a few years maybe." Aunt Susan jumped in. "The important thing is that Ryan is taking responsibility." Emily's laugh was hollow. "Taking responsibility? This is his third DUI." The room went silent. Shock rippled across faces, her grandparents' eyes widening, her uncle looking down at his hands. Apparently, Ryan had hidden more than she realized. "That's not what we're here to discuss," her father said firmly. "We're here to talk about moving forward as a family." "Moving forward how?" Emily shot back. "By protecting Ryan from consequences again? By pretending he didn't steal my car, drive drunk, and total it?" Her grandmother spoke softly, almost pleading. "We think you should drop the police report. Jake's learned his lesson." "Really?" Emily's voice rose. "What lesson? He learned that his family will always bail him out? He learned that wrecking lives is fine as long as no one dies?" Ryan's cheeks flushed. "This time is different. I really get it now." Emily leaned forward, eyes locked on him. "How many times have you driven drunk and gotten away with it? 3 arrests don't equal 3 times, they equal dozens." Ryan sputtered. "That's not the same thing." "It's exactly the same thing," Emily cut him off. The room erupted with voices, pleas for forgiveness, warnings about ruining Ryan's future, guilt trips about family loyalty. Emily let them rage until the noise burned itself out. Then she stood, her voice slicing the silence. "This isn't about family healing. It's about protecting Ryan from accountability, and I won't play along." Gasps, protests, whispers filled the table. But Emily didn't flinch. She was done being the quiet one, because the family thought they could pressure Emily into submission. But the truth was already out, and the next move would prove just how far she was willing to go to make justice unavoidable. 3 weeks passed after that disastrous family intervention. Emily hadn't spoken to her parents since. Every call from them went unanswered, every guilt-soaked voicemail deleted without a second thought. She wasn't going to bend, not this time. But on a quiet Sunday evening, while her parents were once again hosting dinner, the knock came. Only it wasn't Emily at the door. It was the police. 2 officers stepped into the warm glow of the dining room, their uniforms a stark contrast to the clinking silverware and forced small talk. The chatter died instantly, forks frozen halfway to mouths. Ryan sat at the head of the table, his arm still in a cast, his expression shifting from confusion to horror. "Ryan Johnson?" one of the officers asked. Ryan blinked. Yeah?" You're under arrest for driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. Please stand and place your hands behind your back." The room erupted in chaos. Mom shot up, her voice shrill. "This is a mistake. He's my son." Dad's face turned crimson as he barked at the officers. "You can't do this here in front of his family." But the officers didn't flinch. One of them pulled out handcuffs while the other recited his rights. Ryan stammered, his voice cracking. "This isn't fair. Emily, she made this worse. She filed the report." The neighbors were already gathering outside, watching through windows as Ryan was led out the front door, wrists bound, his head ducked in shame. Mom sobbed openly, clutching at his arm as the officers pulled him away. Dad's shouts grew hoarse, but no one stopped the inevitable. And Emily? She wasn't there to see it. She had stopped attending Sunday dinners after the so-called intervention. But her phone buzzed later that night. It was Ryan, his voice seething with rage from the holding cell. "Did you know they were going to arrest me tonight? At Mom and Dad's house? In front of everyone?" Emily's reply was calm, almost cold. "I didn't know when, Ryan. I just knew they would. Actions have consequences. That's how it works." There was silence on the other end. Then a whisper, half fury, half fear. "This is your fault." Emily's heart thudded steady, her voice unwavering. "No, Ryan, it's yours." Because what followed wasn't just an arrest, it was a trial. And for the first time in his life, Ryan would be forced to face the truth in a courtroom, with Emily standing on the other side. The courthouse smelled faintly of polished wood and stale coffee, a mix of formality and fatigue. Emily sat on the hard wooden bench, her hands clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles turned white. This wasn't just about her car anymore. This was about truth, about a lifetime of watching her brother slip past accountability. Ryan shuffled into the courtroom wearing a wrinkled suit that didn't fit, his cast now removed, his eyes bloodshot. He looked smaller somehow, not the golden boy her parents had always painted him to be, but a man cornered by his own choices. Her parents sat behind him, stiff and tense, shooting Emily glances filled with accusation. To them, she was the betrayer, the sister who had turned on her own blood. But Emily sat tall, even as her heart pounded. She wasn't here to betray. She was here to testify. When her name was called, Emily walked to the stand, each step echoing like a drumbeat. She raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat down under the weight of every pair of eyes in the room. The prosecutor's voice was steady. "Ms. Johnson, can you explain the circumstances under which your brother was driving your car that night?" Emily inhaled sharply, her voice even. "I allowed him to use my car to go to dinner. I did not give him permission to drink, to go bar hopping, or to drive recklessly. He was intoxicated when he crashed, and this was not the first time." The defense attorney jumped up. "Objection. Irrelevant." But the judge allowed her to continue. Emily described the phone call, the scene of the wreck, the hospital conversation where Ryan denied everything. She laid out the facts with precision. The blood alcohol level, the speed, the prior DUIs. Every word tightened the noose of truth. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, sweat glistening on his forehead. When the defense asked if she wanted her brother to go to jail, Emily paused, then answered clearly, "I want him to be held accountable, whatever form that takes." The room was silent. When she stepped down, her mother avoided her gaze. Her father's lips were a thin, bitter line. But Emily didn't falter. For the first time in her life, she felt stronger than their judgment. The verdict came days later. Guilty on DUI, reckless driving, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. Ryan was sentenced to 18 months in jail, 3 years probation, alcohol counseling, community service, and ordered to pay restitution for the destroyed car. Emily exhaled slowly as the gavel struck. Justice, finally. But the cost was steep. Her family's fury burned hotter than ever. To them, she hadn't saved Ryan. She had destroyed him. Yet what no one expected was how Ryan would change behind bars, and how months later, he would speak words Emily never thought she'd hear from him. Prison stripped Ryan of everything he had once used to shield himself: his charm, his excuses, his parents' protection. Behind those steel bars, there were no indulgent smiles, No, boys will be boys to cushion his mistakes. There were only consequences. The first weeks were brutal. Emily heard about it through whispers from relatives. Ryan hated the cold routines, the strict schedules, the way the guards called him inmate instead of son or brother. For once in his life, he was just another man facing the weight of his own choices. 4 months into his sentence, a letter arrived in Emily's mailbox. She almost threw it away. Her parents had been sending her nothing but guilt-laced messages since the trial, but this envelope bore Ryan E.'s handwriting. Hesitant, uneven, not the arrogant scrawl she remembered. Inside was a single page. Emily, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to tell you something. At first, I hated you for filing that report. I blamed you for everything. My arrest, my time here, the shame. But the counselor here said something I can shake. That family members who shield addicts from consequences aren't protecting them. They're destroying them. She told me the only person in my life who ever forced me to face reality was you. And she's right. Emily's hands shook as she read, tears blurring the ink. For the first time in 8 years, I've been sober for months. I go to AA in here. I'm learning to admit what I've done, not just to others, but to myself. You didn't ruin my life, Emily. You may have saved it. I don't deserve your help, but I want to make it right. When I get out, I'll pay you back every penny. No excuses this time. Thank you for refusing to lie for me. Emily pressed the letter to her chest, her pulse hammering. She had imagined this moment countless times, an apology, a shred of accountability, but never thought it would come. Her parents, meanwhile, still simmered in anger, calling her cruel, insisting she had destroyed the family. But Emily finally understood. Sometimes love isn't about protecting someone from pain. Sometimes love is letting them hit rock bottom so they can rise. Ryan had hit bottom, and maybe, just maybe, he was ready to climb. But words in a letter are easy. The real test would come after his release. Would Ryan's change last when the cell doors opened and temptation returned? 14 months after his sentencing, Ryan walked out of prison gates a free man. His sentence had been reduced for good behavior and completion of mandatory alcohol counseling. Emily didn't go to meet him that day. She wasn't ready, not after years of lies, excuses, and pain. But 2 days later, her phone rang. She almost let it go to voicemail, but something in her chest told her to answer. Emily, Ryan's voice came through, steadier than she remembered. I owe you an apology. For everything. The silence on her end stretched long enough that he filled it himself. I don't mean just for crashing your car, I mean for all of it. For lying to you, for letting mom and dad pressure you, for acting like I was the victim when I was the one destroying everything. Prison made me face the truth. And the truth is, you were the only one who actually tried to help me. You were the only one who didn't let me hide. Emily sat frozen, the words sinking in like water after years in a desert. She wanted to believe him, but she needed proof. What about restitution? She asked, her tone sharper than she intended. I'm paying you back, Ryan said quickly. $50 a week. It's not much, but it's steady. I'll pay every penny I owe you, no matter how long it takes. And he did. The first payment arrived that Friday, then another the next week, and another. For the first time in years, Ryan kept his word. He also began attending AA meetings religiously, sometimes twice a day. He took a job that didn't involve driving, loading and stocking shelves at a warehouse. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. And for once, Ryan seemed proud of being honest. Their parents, however, remained complicated. To them, Emily was still too harsh. They admitted, quietly, that Ryan had needed professional help. But they couldn't fully forgive her for exposing him to consequences. Old habits die hard, and in their eyes, Ryan's suffering would always outweigh her loss. But Emily didn't need their approval anymore. She saw the truth in Ryan's eyes when he visited her 6 months later, sober, focused, and carrying himself like a man who finally understood responsibility. I'm not who I was, he told her simply, and I don't ever want to be again. For Emily, those words weren't an absolution, but they were enough. Enough to believe that maybe justice hadn't just punished him, it had saved him. Now, with Ryan sober and rebuilding his life, Emily had to face her own reflection. Had she lost her family by telling the truth? Or had she finally redefined what love and loyalty really mean? Months had passed since the trial, the prison sentence, and the long, bitter silence that fractured the Johnson family. Emily still drove her battered old Civic, still paid off the debt from the Audi that no longer existed. Some nights, she would sit at her kitchen table, bills spread out, and feel the old ache of betrayal. But then her phone would buzz, another $50 payment notification. Slowly, steadily, Ryan was making good on his promise. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her parents still saw her as the daughter who destroyed the family, while Ryan, the son they had protected at all costs, was finally rebuilding himself because she refused to lie for him. When they finally met face to face again, Ryan didn't look like the reckless boy who once wrapped her car around a pole. He looked like a man, shoulders squared, eyes clear. "Emily," he said softly, "I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm sober. I'm working, and I'm paying you back. Not because you forced me, but because it's the right thing to do. You didn't ruin my life. You gave me a chance to save it." For the first time in years, Emily felt her throat tighten not with anger, but with relief. She nodded, blinking back tears. "That's all I ever wanted, Ryan, for you to see the truth." The truth was simple, though her family refused to admit it. Protecting Ryan had nearly destroyed him. Holding him accountable had set him free. Emily still carried scars, the financial loss, the fractured bond with her parents, but she also carried something far greater. Proof that standing firm, even when the world calls you cruel, can be the most powerful act of love. As she sat later that night, reflecting on the chaos of the past 2 years, she realized something that made her chest feel lighter than it had in months. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's about giving someone no choice but to change. And sometimes the hardest thing you can do for family is the most loving thing of all, refusing to let them destroy themselves. Justice doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like accountability, tough love, and the courage to tell the truth, even when it costs you. And now I want to hear from you. What is the most satisfying moment of justice or revenge you've ever witnessed? Drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if this story kept you hooked until the end. Because sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones that matter most.